Hello my sweet friends and welcome to DIY with Nadia, where we absolutely love making wreaths. I have a very sleepy and sweet Simba with me today, and in today's video we are going to do top 15 nautical wreaths. That is going to include a few mermaid wreaths, including a mermaid scale method and a few nautical Christmas wreaths. We're also going to be using some shell wreaths, some mermaid tail wreath forms from the Dollar Tree. So with that being said, let's get started. Here's what I'm going to use for this mermaid tail wreath. Starting off with some Deco mesh that's 10 inches by 10 yards. You don't have to use one roll. You can actually go through your leftovers, and if you have enough to combine and make the colors look nice, you can definitely do this. I'm going to be using this for the actual tail, but maybe you can do a cascading where it's going from darker to lighter or something like that. You could definitely do that. Then I'm going to use this beautiful Deco mesh that is left over from another project, and here I have the aqua that will match our actual tail, and then a little bit of a peach to give it a little contrast, and this I'm going to use for the tail and the top of the wreath. It's going to look so pretty. Next, you're going to need some pipe cleaners. Those are going to be hidden, so it really doesn't matter what color you use. I am going to use some floral wire. For decor, I'm going to use one of these silver dollars, and of course a metal mermaid tail wreath form from the Dollar Tree. I really hope that you can get a hold of one if you plan on making it. I'm using some pipe cleaners from the Dollar Tree. These are 12 inches, and you can either cut them in half, which would make them 6 inches, but for this project I thought 4 inches is more than enough. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. After cutting it in 1/3, I'm going to fold it in half so we get the little V. I like doing this because I feel like it's easy just to grab and put it on your petal or whatever you're doing. I'm going to first make sure that my edge is nice and clean. You can use a heating tool to do this or a rotary cutter. For this project, it's important to keep your Deco mesh 10 inches by 10 inches because we're going to be folding it. For my second roll of Deco mesh, I'm cutting 6 pieces. If I have any left over at the end, I can definitely use that, but I want to make sure that I have enough for the top of the wreath because I can definitely add some other Deco mesh in the tail and mix it in. For now, I'm just going to do 6, and then we're going to get started on making our little petals. I wanted to mention that after cutting all the Deco mesh for the actual tail, I'm going to keep 6 of these on the side just in case I want to use them for the tail. Now let's make the petals. What we're going to do first is go corner to corner, and then I like to put them on the side like this. Then about 2.5 inches from the corner, I'm going to pinch, just like that. So I'm going to straighten out this side, and about 3 inches from the tip, I'm going to make a little fold. After I make my fold, I'm just going to crunch it in and squeeze it in to the center. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to overlay the edges, make sure it's nice and straight. Then about 3 inches from the tip, fold in, and then I'm going to bring this in towards the center, and the petal makes itself. As you can see, it's almost like a little cup, and I decided to use this method because it kind of does look like a scale, doesn't it? To bring it together, you can use a pipe cleaner, one of those little rubber bands, or a zip tie. Since I'm using a pipe cleaner, I need to decide which way I want my petal to go, and I want the scale to be on top, so that is where I'm going to put my pipe cleaner, and then 2 twists in the back. As far as the tails, I'm not going to be cutting them off because as I'm overlaying the petals, the tails are going to act as my little background filler. I'm just going to leave them as is. My supervisor is here watching me and can't figure out where he wants to sit. Let's make another one, corner to corner, and then turn. Now I'm just going to line up those edges, and about 3 inches in, I'm going to do a pinch right in the center. Then I'm going to line up one side, 3 inches from the tip, going to make a fold, and then I'm going to bring both ends together. Same thing on this side. Make sure both layers are overlapping nicely. About 3 inches from the tip, make the fold, but you don't have to. Just eye it. Just fold that little side And now about 1/2 inch to an inch from the edge, I'm bringing it together towards the center. Look at this, nice and smooth. And I'm coming in with my pipe cleaner from the cupped part, from the smooth end, because that's how I'm going to lay it on my wreath form. I have all the petals made, and here is the tail. I'm going to start with the body portion of the tail, and I'm not going to put any on this part right here because we need to attach the tails here. So I'm going to start right here, and we're going to kind of build it up as we go along, starting on this corner. I'm going to put one, and I'm just twisting it in place, and then put some on the wave itself at the bottom. Put one on this corner, and I'm just going to start filling it in. Next one I'm going to put on the corner here, and when you put the ones on the corner, make sure that you go around all the wiring, meaning on the edge and on the wave itself. This is going to keep it from wobbling into the back. I'm absolutely loving how this is turning out. It is so adorable and so full. Look at this from the side. It's filling in nicely. I'm so in love with this wreath. For now, I'm just going to continue filling this in, and then I'll let you know how many of the petals I used in each row. My 30 petals are on, so beautiful. And here are the numbers. For a total of 30 petals, we have 3 at the very bottom, then 5, 7, 7, and 8 on this very last row. Next, we're going to do the top of the mermaid tail. I'm going to grab some floral wire. This one is from the Dollar Tree. So I cut off about 24 inches and fold it in half. I'm going to connect it on the corner because the corner kind of has points sticking out. I do want to make sure that this is not going to move anywhere. So I'm twisting it around this corner on this side and on this side, on both sides, so that it is locked in place and is not going to go anywhere. Now I know I have something that is not going to twist, not going to go anywhere. I want this to be solid. I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Now that I have floral wires attached on both sides, we are ready to bring in the other Deco mesh. First thing I'm doing is just gathering my Deco mesh about 2 inches in as usual. Since I want my Deco mesh to loop out, I'm going to first tie the tail this way towards the inside. And the reason I'm using a floral wire is because I'm going to have an easier time hiding the floral wire than the pipe cleaner in this situation. I'm basically making a big old loop and just play it by ear, just covering things up, but give it room because we're going to squeeze this part in, so let it bubble up just a little bit. Now that I've done that, I'm going to make another bubble, and you can make as many bubbles as you would like. I would make the bubbles about 12 to 14 inches. Don't be stingy on Deco mesh here because this is an important part to cover up all of these tails. Give it a nice strong twist, and then I'm going to twist it at the end and bring it back. I ended up making 4 bubbles until I felt secure that it's going to hold nicely. Gathering at the end. And the end of my Deco mesh, I need to bring inside. With my wires right here, I'm going to give it a few nice twists. Then I'm going to put the tail along the edge right here along the top, and then twist my wires to have it in place. And also it's a nice way to get the wires hidden. On this side, I'm going to just twist the wires on the top row. I have my 4 loops. I'm going to make sure that all of the tails are underneath my first loop because we want to make sure this is nice and neat. I'm grabbing another piece of floral wire. I'm going to fold it in half also. So find my center and then bring it together, but not too tight. And try to do it from the bottom. The wire that I'm going to be attaching over here is going to go from this wave. It's the center wave on top to here. So basically this is where the wire is going to go. And that way this top part is not going to fall off this way, and it's going to keep those tails in place. So first I'm going to find my center wave. I'm going to go right there, and then there you go. And that way, if you have anything right here that's sticking out, we can cover it with this. And now slowly I'm going to just bring everything together and give it a few twists on top. And I'm securing the wire to the wave. Aww, look how cute this looks. For the tail, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our deco mesh pieces that are 10 by 10. We're going to grab each corner and just pull it. Where you find the center, just going to fold that in half. I'm going to use the zip tie because I want the tip to be as short as possible. And this one's about 1/2 inch. And we're going to attach it right there. So let's make another one. Same thing, we're going to pull it to the sides, fold it in half, and about 1/2 inch in, going to put a zip tie. Let's cut that off. Grabbing a pipe cleaner, I'm going to twist it underneath my zip tie. That way we can attach it however we want. I'm going to do 4 long ones with my second deco mesh. And since we do have some left over, I'm going to do 2 of these. Let's start by attaching our second deco mesh. And here on the back, I'm going to attach it to this corner. So make sure that your pipe cleaners go over to the side, back and forth until you know it's not going to go up, it's not going to go down, it's nice and secure. And that's why pipe cleaners are kind of nice to use for this, because you can do whatever you need to. We have a little special guest, little appearance by Leo. Next, I'm using the aqua one, just putting it right on there. And then another one, the second deco mesh. Next, I'm going to put another one with the second deco mesh. And then, of course, the other side. This tail is turning out a little fuller than I expected. So I'm going to make another one. Let's zip tie it, pipe cleaner. And I'm going to put it on the first wave. And the reason I did that is to kind of blend everything in and cover the tips right here. I'm going to make 2 more with the green ones. With the tail, you can definitely do whatever you want, and you can make it longer, shorter. I decided that I want some kind of sticking out here. You know, you've seen those mermaid tails. They're so beautiful, and they have the edges at the ends. They're not flat. They're usually a little lower on the sides. So that is what I'm going to do with a few more of these, then 2 more using our second deco mesh. In order to hide the tips, I'm going to go on the second row, and I'm going to end up hot gluing these in place. So just do one, then the other, and then we're going to see where we want them from the front. Going to do the same thing on this side. Let me just hot glue this in. I'm hot gluing the bottom one about 1 inch from the bottom, and then about 2 inches here, and I'm just hot gluing that in place. And I'm going to let this cool. You can obviously cover the back if you are selling this piece. To hang it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath wave number 1, 2 from the top and just tie that in. And then I'm going to go on the other side and I'm going to measure off for it not to be too long. For the final touch, I'm grabbing a silver dollar and I'm going to hot glue it in place just like this. Lots of hot glue right in there. For this wreath, I'm going to be starting off with this navy deco mesh, and it is 10 inches by 10 yards. And I'm also going to be using this pull and puff mesh that I accidentally bought at Hobby Lobby. I did not mean to buy the pull one, but that's okay. We're going to be using these as curls. For a wreath form, I'm going to be using 14-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree. And also you're going to need 18 pipe cleaners. This wreath form comes with 6 sections. In each section, we're going to put 3 pipe cleaners, and that's what's going to give us 18 for total. The first pipe cleaner is going to go on row 1 and 2, or just row 1. And I'm going to give it 2 nice twists here, and I'm going to point it towards the inside. I'm just going to do it in the middle of this little section. Then the next 2 are going to go on ring 3 and 4. Same thing, we're going to just give it 2 twists, and we're going to face it down. I'm going to be putting the actual twist on row 3. The reason I use both rows 3 and 4 is basically for stability, and it kind of prevents it from moving. If you want to give a little bit of hot glue, you can do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing in all of the sections. 1 in the middle of the section, 2 on both sides of this middle one on rows 3 and 4, and altogether we're going to have 18 pipe cleaners. As you can see, I'm laying the pipe cleaners that I attach on row 3 and 4 towards the outside. The one on row 1 and 2, I'm facing them inside. The reason I lay my pipe cleaners out this way is because it makes it easier for us to find them as we're attaching our ruffles or cruffles or whatever method you're using. It just makes it easier to find the actual pipe cleaners. And this is what the wreath form looks like when all the pipe cleaners are on. So just 3 per section. The white Deco mesh I want to use to make curls for every one of our pipe cleaners, which is 18. 18 times 2 is 36. So this one's 27 feet. Long story shorter with the math here, I'm going to cut it into 9 inches in order to have 36 pieces. I want to have 2 curls per bundle, and I don't want to open up another one. So basically I will be cutting into 9 inches. I recommend you cutting it into 10 inches if you have a regular roll of Deco mesh. Because of the string here, I'm going to be cutting mine, but if you want to use a heat tool or you want to use a rotary cutter, definitely do that. So I'll be cutting this up into 9-inch little pieces. Here is our navy Deco mesh. I'm going to be cutting it into 20-inch strips. When I cut my strips, I just kind of let it roll right where I cut, just like that. And I'm going to put it to the side. And usually I use big laundry baskets to keep my Deco mesh rolls while I'm cutting them. And once again, I'm just going to curl it right where I cut it and put it in my laundry basket. In case you're wondering what I'm using here, I just have a little container. It has a little groove right here. This is an IKEA container, and I just use it for my rolls. I have seen some really cool ideas where people use containers that have holes on the side here, and they'll put a little dowel in there or something. I really don't feel like I need that. I just unroll it. It stays in there nicely. It's deep enough where it's not going to pop out, and I just use that. Now we're ready to get started on our cruffles. You're going to need some sort of a clip or even a clothespin, something to just lightly pinch for just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start rolling, and I'm going to give one of the endings about 2-3 rolls, and I'm going to pinch. Then I'm going to turn around, give this side just about 2 to 3 little curls, and then I'm just going to walk it in. And I'm ready to attach it to my wreath. I'm going to keep the curls going up. I want more volume on this. So I'm just going to bring it in. And then I'm going to put it flat and give it a good twist. We're going to grab 2 of these. And we're going to give it a nice curl right here. You can hold it with the clip. Then the second one. We're going to cross it, and we're going to put it right here where we have space. That's where I want it, and that's the nice thing about having the wire. We can mold it to our liking. Going to give it 2 twists, and there you go. And then I'm going to move on to my next one. In each one of the bundles, we're going to do a blue cruffle with 2 white curls. Let's do another one. And this is really going to fill up. As you can see, it's already filling up. We can play around where we want everything to be a little later when everything is up. And I'm just going to continue doing the same thing, going all the way around. Look at how full this is, and I only completed 2 sections of this wreath. I'm going to go ahead and finish this off. This is going to be a big, beautiful wreath. Next, I'm going to grab some burlap ribbon. You can either get this one at the Dollar Tree, and you're going to need a few rolls of this one, or I'm going to use this one. One roll of 10 yards is going to be enough because we're going to be cutting them into 10 inches, and we're going to need 36 of them, so that's actually perfect for this. And I got this one at Craft Outlet. This ribbon is wired, so I'm just going to go round and round and just cut it. I'm done cutting up all the ribbon. Now I'm going to make little dovetails, and just like this, I'm going to cut every single ending, make pretty little dovetails. All the dovetails are on my ribbon, and all I'm going to do is just overlap 2 of them, bring them together in the middle, connect them with my pipe cleaner here. And since I know I'm pretty much done after this, I'm just going to wrap my pipe cleaner about 1 inch from where I connected the wire, clip it off, and bend it back. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this at every connection. So you're going to have 18 bundles of these. This burlap ribbon is really going to give character to this wreath, and it's going to be super, super pretty. I'm just going to go ahead and do this to all my little bundles. Once again, keep on twisting. Clip about 1 inch from the ribbon here, fold it in half, and then fold it back. And then I just kind of walk the ribbon up, and you're just going to open it up. I'm going to continue adding my ribbon to my little Deco mesh bundles and cutting off the excess pipe cleaner. For decor, I'm going to be using this anchor from the Dollar Tree. And now I'm just grabbing some chalked Rust-Oleum paint in linen white, and I'm going to give this anchor 2 good coats, including the sides. For this next part, I highly recommend a Sharpie marker, but if you don't have one like me, I'm going to use some dark blue paint, and I'm going to do a border, but I'm going to go about, I don't know, 1/8 inch in, just like that. Doesn't need to be perfect, and I'm just going to do a border. I want a little bit of the white to show on this side also, and I'm just going to go all the way around doing the little border. Now that my anchor is all painted, I'm going to flip it upside down, and first thing I'm going to do is add the attachments. I'm going to grab 2 pipe cleaners, and as usual, I make a little kind of like a seat with 2 fingers. I'm going to attach one on top and one at the bottom so that I can attach them to the top and bottom of the wreath. A dollop of hot glue, then my pipe cleaner, more hot glue, a generous amount, and a piece of fabric or felt or ribbon. This really gives it a permanent attachment. Next, I'm going to use some nautical rope, and as you can see, this one is braided. I took this one apart for a different project. The braid is 3 strings in one, so this was braided around like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure how much I'm going to need to wrap around. And I'm going to double it, give it a little tail. I'm gonna knot it. Once you have your pretty knot, I got my little finger protector. I'm going to wrap it around the center right here of the neck. The knot is basically for character to just make it look a lot more fun. And I'm going to wrap this around this way. Let's see here. I'm going to cut this off later, but with this one right here, I want maybe a row on top and a row at the bottom. Let me just cut everything extra off. So what I have here is basically a knot in the center and then a row on top and a row at the bottom. Let me just hot glue everything in place, and then we're just going to attach it to the wreath. And as you can see, we gave the nautical rope so that we can bring the burlap in to the whole wreath. If you are making this wreath for a grandchild or a little boy maybe, or maybe a girl who likes everything nautical, just write their name right here in the center, or maybe right here. I've seen it down where people write their names right here, and maybe their birthday and the year they were born on this side or something like that. You could definitely play with this, but it's such an easy decoration. So I'm just going to take my pipe cleaners that I attached to my nautical wreath and attach them to the wreath form itself. Since this piece is going from top to bottom, I would definitely try to connect where you have an intersection right here. So I'm going to just lightly connect on here and then at the top. So I'm just lightly connecting at the bottom and then at the top. And then I'm going to see if I need to tighten it up. And now all that's left is just to straighten everything out. Make sure the ribbons are nicely displayed here. And that's it. For this wreath, I'm going to be using 2 rolls of Deco mesh, a pink and a blue one like this. You can also use 1 roll of Deco mesh if it's 10 yards. We're also going to be using a Dollar Tree metal wreath form. This one is 14 inches, along with some pipe cleaners. You're going to need 2 colors for this type of wreath, and here I chose gold and silver. And then I'm going to be using this ribbon, and this is the reason that I'm choosing these colors, is because of this gorgeous ribbon. And then the silver in here, I'm going to enhance that with this ribbon from the Dollar Tree. This is going to be easy, I promise. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 pipe cleaner on the inside of each section. This ring form has 6 sections. So 1 right here. For more stability, I'm going to be using 2 rings to put my pipe cleaners on the wreath form. The next 6 silver pipe cleaners, I'm going to put on the intersection right here on rows 3 and 4. So just like that, and 2 twists. And I'm just going to go to each intersection and do the same thing. And as you can see, I'm laying these flat. 1 set on rows 1 and 2 in the middle. And then the other set of 6 on the outside on the intersection where the crossbars are, or the little dividers on the wreath form. Next, I'm coming in with the gold ones, and the gold ones, I'm not going to lay them down. I'm going to point them up because we're going to start with these. So I'm just going to literally go complete opposite. So if this one's here, I'm going to just put one on the other side of it. That's it. And I'm putting them on row 3 and 4. This next one, right on the intersection, but on row 1 and 2. Basically, you just want 2 rows of these, and it's gonna be every other. If one's at the bottom, one's going to be at the top. If one's at the top, we're going to put one at the bottom. I know it seems like it's a lot of pipe cleaners, but there's not. It's just every other going along row 1 and 2, and then row 3 and 4. I'm going to start with this blue one. I'm going to gather about 1.5 inches. And it really doesn't matter if you start on the outside or on the inside. You are going to be zigzagging all the way around. First things first, we're going to put it on there, give it 2 good twists. And of course, because this is a beginning one, I'm going to grab a zip tie, and I'm going to go about 1/2 inch to 1 inch off of this connection, and I'm going to zip tie it. It's going to straighten it out. As far as spoofs, you want them to be anywhere from 8 to 10 inches. And I'm just going to measure off my 10 inches. My 10 inches is this pink square right here. And as soon as I get my 10 inches, I'm going to go to this next one. Going to close it in. I can put this away later. It depends on what I want to do as far as decoration. So you can either cut it off if you know you're not going to use it, or keep it if you're not sure if you want to add ribbon to that part. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to be adding the ribbon, so I decided just to leave it in. But I do like to poof it out as I'm going along, just because it makes things a little bit easier. And that's it. We are just going to go in a zigzag with the blue from row 3, 4 to 1, 2, from this one to this one, from this one to this one. Let me know how you like this method. As far as I know, this method was developed by Brenda from Busy Bees. Let me know how you like this, because it's kind of fun. You can definitely play with 2 different ribbon or with 1, and we're going to see how fluffy it's going to be, and it's just going to be a beautiful wreath. So I'm going to continue zigzagging with my 10-inch loops and just hopping along from gold pipe cleaner to gold pipe cleaner. I completed my circle going all the way around with the blue, and here's where we started. You can see the zip tie right here. And I'm going to cut about 2 inches right here. And I'm going to go in the back to row 3 right here. Using another zip tie, I'm going to lock that in place. Just like that. Now the pink, going to collect it. Now I'm going to go towards the silver one. Same thing, 2 ties. Going to grab a pipe cleaner and lock that in. Just like that. Now I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to measure off 10 inches. And I'm going to find my next silver one. And since I already have them nice and flat, it's going to be easy to find them. 2 twists, and I'm going to point them up and just open up as you go along. And yes, that's Leo right there. I'm trying to twist the blue so it doesn't have bulks of pink pink or blue blue. And how gorgeous is this? I know making a mermaid wreath here, but if you look at it with the pink and the blues, you could have probably guessed that I could have been making a baby shower wreath. And you can definitely make one of these for a baby shower or for a reveal party. Look at this. Look how fun this would be for a reveal party. It's pink and blue. And just decorate it with some baby stuff, with some favors. I don't know, you know, they have like those little bottles and stuff. Or just do polka dots with some vase fillers. That would be cute too. This method is super fun if you want to do 2 colors. Another good idea is Christmas with red and green. That would look cute too. So maybe you'll see that on this channel. Who knows? You never know. I'm on my last loop right here, going back to where we started. 2 twists, and then same thing. I'm going to grab this tail and put it behind this first loop and zip tie it on row 3 right here, just like that. And at the end, you should have a wreath that looks something like this before decor. You have 2 colors nicely incorporated. It is so pretty. The mermaid I'm going to be using is from the Dollar Tree, and we are actually whipping out some paints. We have a real craft project here, you guys. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab some white paint where the hair is going to be, because I want this to be painted yellow or blonde, because the little girl who I'm doing this for is blonde. Okay, the Crafter Square paint here gets a 0 out of 5. I don't even know what to tell you. It is pretty much see-through there. Since the paint was pretty much useless, I'm just going to give a few coats of the yellow one that I wanted to do for her. This is Bright Yellow by Craft Smart. Next, I'm going to grab this Craft Smart, and this is the Pink Blush Pearl. It's kind of an iridescent paint. I don't know if you guys can see that. And I'm just going to paint the body, the bottom of the tail, because it's going to give me this clear layer where you can still see the scales, but it's going to be this beautiful iridescent pink. This mermaid originally came with a little starfish just like this, and it was on her arm like that. And all I'm doing is just grabbing some of that paint and putting it on the starfish just like that. Next, we're going to get very glittery. I'm grabbing 2 little seashells like this. I'm going to go right there. I'm grabbing some glitter from the Dollar Tree, and this is just silver glitter. And I'm going to put some Mod Podge on the seashells and this bottom part of the tail. I'm going to do the seashells first. I'm going to let these dry, and then I'm going to come back and put more Mod Podge over it to seal it in. While everything's drying, I decided to give my little mermaid some low lights. Do have some brown around here, but I'm going to use this Rich Espresso by Dazzling Metallics, and this is just like a metallic bronze or whatever this color is supposed to be. And I'm just going to just give her some streaks. Nothing extravagant, and I'm actually going to work it in, just dry brush it here and there because I want the blonde to show. I don't want it to be anything too much. And if it's too much, that's okay. I'm just going to come back with a little blonde here and there. But at least if you give a second color, it's going to give it dimension. Just by adding that second color, she looks more natural. It looks like the sunlight is bouncing off her hair, and it makes for a more natural look. Grabbing some Mod Podge, I'm going to go over the tail and her swimsuit here and just seal that in. Everything's pretty much dry. My tail is a little milky, but it just needs a little bit more time to dry. It is really dry to touch right now. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my pipe cleaners. As always, I'm going to make a flat little surface with my 2 fingers. The mermaid is a little bit of a gentle piece, so I'm going to attach right here and right here. More hot glue on top, and I'm going to grab a piece of felt. You can, of course, use fabric or a piece of ribbon, anything, but when you do this, it really just seals it in. And then one more right here. Then my star. And for the hot glue, I definitely recommend using Gorilla Hot Glue so you have a nice attachment. Then our swimsuit. And on the swimsuit, I'm basically just giving it a dollop of hot glue right inside the shell. And I want to make sure it attaches really well. So I'm not being stingy with the hot glue at all. And there you go, my mermaid is all ready. I just need to wait for the tail to dry. So what I'm going to do first is hide all this wire. Either twist it, cut it, and fold it over, or you can just grab the wires and tie them in the back. I decided I'm just going to twist the wires and fold them back. It's just the easiest. And I'm just going to continue going all the way around until all 24 of these are taken care of. I did decide to do 3 bundles of ribbon here, plus this mermaid. So I'm going to put her on the side right now. Let's start with our ribbon bundle. So what we're going to use is pretty much the worst ribbon at the Dollar Tree. You get this at Christmas, and the sparkles here, they just flake off. But it's a strong ribbon and it has a nice wire edging here, and I need the wire edging because this ribbon is so flimsy. So here's my solution. I'm going to actually use both of these, and I'm going to hot glue just the edges onto this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of fold it over at the end, and then I'm going to cut it. So basically, I'm going to do 12-inch bundles for the wire ribbon here. Since I'm making 3 bundles, I'm going to make a cross with this one. So we're going to need 6 of these. And then these I'm going to cut at 13 and a half inches maybe, just to make sure I have enough to fold over. The third ribbon I'm going to use is this one, and I got this at Easter. And this one I'm also going to do 12 inches. I'm going to first grab these, make little dovetails, and I'm going to put these to the side. Okay, let's make our sparkly ribbon here. I'm just going to put this one right over it. Then in the back, just make sure it's centered. It will hold really well. As you can see, it took it really quickly. The other side, just make sure it's nice and flat. Lots of hot glue. and fold it over. Let that cool. Now let's make the ribbon bundles. I'm going to first grab 2 of these blue ones, then 2 of these, and just put them right on top, because I want this ribbon to be the one that's in the front. And just like that, I'm going to bring it together. Grab half a pipe cleaner or 6 inches of floral wire. Make our little bundle here. Twist it in place. And then I'm going to add it to row 2 of the wreath form. I already have one bow ready to go. I'm going to add the second one right here, and I'm just going to tie it in the back and then do my third one. And then I'm going to add my little mermaid, and then I'm just going to poof all of these out. My mermaid's in place. I made sure not to pull on my pipe cleaners too far right there. And now I can adjust where I want my bows to be. That's why I wanted to attach everything and then start working on our bows. I feel like this bundle is just a little too close to the mermaid. I'm going to move it forward a little bit. One of my favorite things about this wreath is I got to use the ribbon that I really wanted to use, and I got to mold it the way I want it because of the foil ribbon that we gave it as kind of a base. And we have this gorgeous kind of poofiness going on. We have a mermaid here, and we have our beautiful crisscross poof method going on the wreath form. In the comments below, let me know how you like this crisscross poof method. I'm using this beautiful little seahorse that I got at the Dollar Tree as my centerpiece, and then I'm using a 5-gallon wooden paint stir stick that I got at Home Depot. You could get it at your local hardware store. The deco mesh I'm going to be using is this kind of a light mint, also some white. Then I got some green pipe cleaners and some floral wire. I use the floral wire to make a little hook so I can hang this, because I try not to use anything that's hard for you to access. You know, some people make holes in it. If you have access to that, that's fine. I don't, so I'm going to show you how to do this and how to hang it up using just some floral wire. One of the best things about using this 5-gallon stir stick is this groove right here. And this groove, I promise you, is just enough to make a hook, and it's going to hold it in place. The first thing I grabbed was this 22 gauge wire. The piece that I cut is 16 inches. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to separate it. I'm going to put about 1/4 of the wire on this side, and then at the narrowest end right there, I'm going to just do 2 twists with the other side, and then I'm going to do 2 twists right at the top. Whatever the tail's left, I'm going to just twist it, and this will make my hook. Now with the wire that's left over, the little thin one, I put it through the bottom right here. After I pulled it through, I'm going to hold it and give it a few twists, just like this. And then this tail that I have left over, I'm going to wrap it around this area right here of the neck. This is just making it stronger and stronger and stronger. And it is done. And this hook, I'm telling you, pull all you want. It is not going to go anywhere. And as you can see, making this hook is super easy, no power tools involved, and it absolutely holds my swags in place. Now I'm going to flip it upside down, of course, because we want the hook to be in the back. Next, I'm going to grab 8 pipe cleaners, and the first thing you want to do is find your center. My center is 10.5 inches, and what you want to do here is you want to pull the pipe cleaner to one side, and that is where you're going to give it 2 twists. And then we're going to grab a second pipe cleaner. We're going to go in the same place, and then we're going to put it to the side, and that is where we're going to twist it. And we can just lay these flat. With the next pipe cleaner, you want to go about 2.5 to 3 inches in, and we're going to do the same thing we did on the other side. We're going to pull our pipe cleaner to one end, give it 2 twists, lay it down, Going to grab another one. Same thing, 2 twists and lay it down. Same thing on this side, and usually it does come around where we have our little hook, so I'm just going to go underneath the hook. The leftover 2 pipe cleaners we're going to put right here in the center of these 2 and in the center of these 2. We're only going to use one at a time, and we're going to tie it to the top, not to the side like we tied all the rest of them. Just like that, straight in the middle. This next step is optional, but I highly recommend it, especially for this bottom part right here. And I really go to town and go heavy on that. And I'm just going to put a lot of hot glue right here and even put my little felt piece over it, because I want this to be permanent, especially if it's going to be hanging and the weight is going to be right here. This is a very crucial point for the wreath, so definitely do that right there. The rest of them should be fine. And I decided, since I have this other piece, I cut this piece into like 2 little pieces, going to put it right here also. This is raw wood, so it's going to hot glue it in place really well regardless. I decided to use 2 white and 2 green. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the white, then the 2 green, and then white on top again. And the reason I decided to add a white one is I want this green to stand out just a little bit more. I'm just going to collect it like I usually do. And I'm going to start right on top, give it a good twist or 2. And we're ready to make our first loop. So the first loop on top, I'm going to make it 12 inches because it needs to make this whole kind of loop going all the way around. And you can make anywhere from 10 to 12 inches, and you don't even have to measure. This is going to be a little bit more on like a loose side. I want these poofs to be quite big because we're going to put a seahorse right there. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to jump from this one to the middle one to the side, and we're going to go all the way around on the sides. And I think I'm going to keep it at 12 inches as we're going along. Look at these beautiful waves that we're making. Another 12 inches, and we're coming around to the other side. We're going to separate the layers so you're not going to see this hole right here. Here's what we did so far. We started right here on top on the side ones, and we made a loop to go to the other side. Then we made a loop to go to the next double, another loop to the opposite side, and then double and double pipe cleaners. And now we have the ones where they're single right here, and we're going to go to those. The distance is kind of short, so I made it 10 inches to go from the double to the single on top, and then another 12 inches, and we're going to go to the second single. At this point, we're going to make a loop on the inside. So let's measure. Nice 12 inches. And we're going to fill in this area right here. And we're kind of looping it onto itself right where we were before. 12. And we're kind of looping it onto itself right where we were before. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to cut off the white. And so I'm just going to make some loops. And I'm not sure that I'm going to have enough to do double. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make kind of loose loops right here. And then the rest of it that's left, I'm going to attach it to the double on top. And that will complete all my deco mesh. And we used it all up. And the tail, I'm not going to cut that away. I'm just going to let it stay there. That's going to cover some of that. And look at that, it just gave me a little bit more greenery. I'm going to take whatever's left of this greenery and I'm going to do the same thing. So I can see I'm going to twist it, and just a beautiful bubble to this middle double, just like that. I'm going to twist it. I'm going to cut off a tail a little bit because it's too long. And I'm going to just kind of work it right here to fill in that space. And look at this, just gorgeous and beautiful. At this point, I'm going to open it up very lightly. And what I'm basically doing is I want some of this green to show. I'm not touching the white. I'm just separating the top white layer and the green just a little bit. The ones on the ends, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take the white and the green and the white and separate it like that. Let's flip our swag upside down, and we're just going to take a look what's going on in the back. As far as our ribbon is concerned, we are going to need 6 ribbon bundles. For the bundles, I'm going to use this beautiful burlap ribbon. You can also use this one if you want. It's going to give you a little bit of white in there, and it's going to look pretty. I decided I just want this one. I'm going to be folding my ribbon into 10-inch strips, and I'm going to need 12 of them. When I got my 12, I'm going to go ahead and make dovetails with all the endings. Now I'm just going to take 2 of these at a time, crisscross them, bring them together in the middle, just like that. And I'm going to start adding them to the double pipe cleaners. Just like that, bring it together in the middle and add it to the other side. And we're going to do this going all the way down. This middle one, I know this part is going to be covered, so I'm just opening it up right here, sending one maybe behind, something like that. Because I'm not going to add anything that I need pipe cleaner for. So I'm just going to twist it and send it to the back. Isn't it coming together beautifully? When it comes to the Seahorse, it does come with this beautiful star. I kind of don't like the star, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it white, and I feel like it's going to stand out a little better and look good with this white salty and happy sign. I'm going to grab some white chalk paint, and this is just Rust-Oleum in linen white, and I'm going to paint the star. I'm going to give it 2 coats just to make sure it's nice and solid on there. I gave my little starfish 2 coats of the white chalk paint. Now I'm going to grab some brown, and this is just by Craft Smart. My little starfish, the little grooves are going this way, but I'm still going to dry brush going in the direction that the wood is going. Just like that, if you feel like you put a little bit too much brown, you could definitely put a little bit more white on there, and I usually end up doing that anyway. The lettering on here does have a little bit of a black outline, so I'm going to use that as a little bit of an excuse to have my little star stand out a little bit more. The starfish does blend in, and if I just give it a little bit of black here and there. After I was done going over with the black, I just grabbed my white brush and just brushed over it just to soften that black up a little bit. When I was done painting the starfish, I did decide to go over it with some Mod Podge, and then I used some glitter from Walmart to put over it. That is why in the next step you're going to see a very glittery starfish. Now I'm going to bring my Seahorse in, and I'm just going to try to see where I want to place it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the places where we have our single ones right here, because that's where I want to attach it. Draw where I want my pipe cleaner to go. I have my places marked. I have 2 of my little pieces of felt. You can use ribbon, fabric, anything you have on hand. And then I have 2 12-inch pipe cleaners. I'm going to first make kind of like a seat, just using my 2 fingers, dollop of hot glue. Then we're going to place a pipe cleaner on top, more hot glue, and then our piece of felt. And same thing on this bottom one. Just like that. I'm going to put the Seahorse on the side real quick, and I'm going to grab this eucalyptus. And this eucalyptus, if you can see, it matches the wood on here really nicely. And it's like a dark olive maybe is what this shade is. It's not the green one that we're used to. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to take these little pieces, and I need 6 of them, to just put over, just hot glue it just like this to the center of the bows. This is going to cover that green pipe cleaner, and it's just going to give us a little bit of the eucalyptus. I'm just putting it right in the middle. Next, I decided to undo the singles that we had, and I'm going to use some of this additional eucalyptus. Let's measure how much we need of it. About there. I'm going to grab 4 of these. Next, I'm going to go around and just hot glue these in place, because I don't trust that they're going to stay in place. So just a little bit of hot glue, and I'm going to put them back on. Same thing with this bottom one, just a tiny bit of hot glue and put it back on. And I'm going to continue doing that with all of these. Now I'm going to take these 4 and grab some kind of pliers or something, and I'm going to make a little hook. This is a little bit of an extra step, but let's just go ahead and do that. I'm going to put it right here, and the reason I put the little hook is it's almost like an extra safety measure to make sure that it stays in place and doesn't just swing out. Obviously, yes, we can definitely put some hot glue on there, but I'm just using it as kind of precaution. Then I'm just going to tie it in place and hide this. Same thing on this side. Now let's put our seahorse right here, and I'm going to attach it. As you can see, this is where my single is, and that is where I'm attaching. First, I'm going to do lightly until I know that it's in the right place. Then let's do the top one. Now we can put our greenery in place where we want it, and if you want to put a little bit of hot glue to make sure it stays there, you can definitely do that. Or if you want to add extra greenery, I think actually maybe some greenery here might not be a bad idea, just like this. So maybe I'll just grab some, and I'm going to hot glue it in between our little seahorse and that Deco mesh. It'll stay in place. If you want to cover that little hole, you can definitely grab some of the ribbon and just kind of cover it with the ribbon or something like that. I decided to grab just a little piece of the eucalyptus, and I'm going to hot glue it in place. I'm going to hot glue the second leaf into place too, so it lays down flat. And it's just going to look like this little piece got caught on him. That's it. And we covered up that hole. I think the seahorse turned out absolutely cute. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. All I'm going to do right now is just play around with the ribbon, make sure it's where I like it to be, and I'm going to display it. First, I want to show you the inspiration ribbon for this wreath. It is absolutely stunning. I got it at Craft Outlet. I'll give you the link for this because it's beautiful. Look at these colors. Look at the gorgeous kind of aqua color, then the purple, and this is like a dark pinkish red right along the corals and on the starfish right here. I decided to make a mermaid scale wreath, and usually you can make this wreath with so many colors, as many as you want. You can make 20 if you want, but I decided to stick to the purple that's on here and the pink that's on these little accents. It'll make it pop a little bit. And then I have this gorgeous beauty that I've had for a while. It's like an iridescent teal color. And usually for a mermaid scale wreath, you don't really do a bow. You kind of leave it as it is laid out, and you'll see what I mean. But we are going to attempt to break that rule and make a gorgeous bow with these two ribbons, and I think it'll be fine because the white in here will break that kind of dark with the purple and pink, and we're just going to go for it. As usual, I'm going to be using the 14-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree, and of course we're going to need pipe cleaners. Our wreath form is in 6 sections, and we're going to put 12 of these petals in each section. Here's how this works. Our Deco mesh is 10 inches by 10 yards. 10 yards is 360 inches. Divide that by the 10 inches that we're going to be cutting our Deco mesh into. So basically we're going to be making 10 by 10 inches here. And you're going to have 36 petals per roll. We're going to have 2 rolls. So we should have 72 petals from these 2 rolls. This will make for a very full wreath here. As for the pipe cleaners, I'm going to cut them into 4-inch strips. They're usually 12 inches long, so I just fold them like that. And of course, when I'm done, I'm going to fold them into a little V, so they are ready to be used. Now it's time to cut our deco mesh into 10-inch strips. I'm going to be using a rotary cutter, but you can use a heating tool or some scissors. Here is my pink deco mesh all cut up, and before I move on to the purple one, I wanted to show you how I store it while I'm cutting it. And as you can see, they're all separate. They're all just in their own little loops, I guess, not touching. And when I pick them up, there's no problem, there's no tangling, there is no fraying. And that is important because before we even make the petals, we don't want any fraying. So every step of the way when making wreaths, we have to be careful with the deco mesh. The purple one is really hard to see against my blue background over here, but I'm just going to continue making my 10-inch little strips, and I'll be back so we can make the petals. We are ready to make our little mermaid scales. First things first, I'm going to grab our little piece of deco mesh. I'm going to roll it out so it's still curling in this way. And I'm going to bring it together where the seams are right there. And you want the smooth end to be on the sides because that is what's going to go on top. So right here, I just like to kind of hold it in the center. Bring it from this side, bring it from that side, and we're going to make a little bow. My supervisor set on my little pipe cleaners. Now I'm just going to bring a pipe cleaner here. I'm going to give it a little twist, and then I'm going to put it straight on our wreath form right here. Now that it's attached to our wreath form, I'm going to take one of the tails and fold it back so that it's all folding kind of in and surrounding our wreath. I know right now it looks really thin and you can see the wiring, but don't forget we are going to fill this in. Then I'm going to grab the next one. As I said, the cut edges are at top, at the bottom. The really nice edging is on the sides, and I just kind of put my hand right in the center, bring it from one side, bring it from another, just kind of just like that. Just bring it together. Grab our pipe cleaner here, give it a little twist, and then we're going to just bring it together in the back. And it's going to be pretty short, so if you're not comfortable with this, definitely just cut the pipe cleaners in half. But I like it this way because I'm done with it. I locked it in, no cutting, nothing. So this one is going to lay right against this one. And then this one we're going to turn inside out, and you already have a little pattern happening over here. And I'm just going to go every other, pink and lilac, pink and lilac. There you go. In the center, bring it in, grab a pipe cleaner here, make it nice and tight, a twist or two, just twisting it in place in the back. There you go. And this section we're going to flip, and we're just going to continue going. And you can already see this beautiful kind of pink and lilac design happening. It is going to be so elegant and pretty. And then just imagine it with this bow on top. It is going to be gorgeous. One thing about this wreath to keep in mind that yes, it might fray on the edges, but we're going to just keep it nice and tight. And that's why I stuck to 10 inches, is because I wanted to make sure that I have plenty of deco mesh little pieces, and that we have 12 per each section, so each section is nice and filled. At the end, when all of our petals are in place, it's going to look stunning. Look at the elegance of this wreath. I absolutely love it, and the fraying is kind of being held together by that next petal and the next petal and the next petal. So we are just going to go ahead and continue doing this all the way around, and 12 of these petals per section. Now it's time to make a beautiful bow for our wreath. I'm going to measure 14 inches for our tail and put it right in the center of our bow maker. But before I do that, let's put a little pipe cleaner right underneath there so we can bring this bow together at the end. Now I'm going to start twisting in the center because this is definitely a two-sided type of ribbon, and I'm going to go for 5-inch loops, or 10 altogether, 5 inches right there, and twist. Just measuring off 14 inches for the second tail. And now I'm going to get this sparkly teal. And this one I got on sale after the holidays. It was originally $10. And I don't remember if I got it for 70% off. But it was something quite large like that. Now this one is very much double-sided. But I'm still going to twist to make sure it has like the same amount of gloss. And I'm still going to be doing 5 inches. And these types of bows are so easy to do. Now we're just going to take it off our bow maker right along with our pipe cleaner. And I like to press it down as much as I can right in here. 2 good twists, and let's send it to the back. And here I'm actually going to put in another pipe cleaner. I'm putting in this pipe cleaner because the wreath is quite fluffy. And I want to make sure that I have enough wire to reach to the back of the wreath form so we can tie it in place. And this one I'm just going to twist in place. Let's look at this wreath one more time before we put our bow on and just play around with it. If there's anything that's out of place or needs to be untwisted, this is the time to do it. And just make sure everything's just laying really nicely and smoothly and all going in one direction, looking so pretty and elegant. Now this bow, I know it's a big contrast here with the green and teal, and then you have the purple and pinks, but because of this pretty little bow, it brings everything so nicely together. Now the trick here is to find the spot where we're going to go in. I'm going on an intersection, and one of my wires is going on this side and the other one's on this side. I know the bow's looking really sad right now because I smushed it, but we are going to take care of that. I'm going to put this on lightly right now. I'm not going to cut it or anything like that because I want to make sure that the bow's in the right place before we do anything. Now we start working on our bow. We're just going to bring it up. When you're bringing the loops up, don't just bring it up, especially the ones in the center. Bring it up and give it a little twist and kind of make it work right here so it's all fluffy and beautiful, not just bringing it up and then you could tell where the separation is. Twist them a little bit at the bottom right here. Now we're going to fan out these guys in the back. These I want to be a little bit on the flatter side. The teal one I want poofed up. Don't forget they were all 5-inch little loops, but they are going to work beautifully together. Look at this. It looks so beautiful. And then of course we are going to work on the tail. So first things first, we're going to make dovetails, and then we're going to do my favorite thing to do with long ribbon tails like this. We're going to make what I call banner tails. Here's how we do it. We're going to find the center and fold it back, and of course you can do it as high as low as you would like. And what I'm going to do is, you can see where the tail is going to the center right here, and I'm going to pinch it right here. Give it a nice pinch. Then just like I pinched it, I'm going to just bring it back, and then we're going to have a little bit of a wave going on. I'm going to do the same thing here. We're going to pinch it, and just like we pinched it, we're just going to bring it back. Just a little action like that. On the side, this is what it's going to look like, but it just gives life to the little tails. And if you don't want to do banner bows, that's just fine. You can definitely just leave it down and just make dovetails on the ends. So whichever way you like, that's fine, but I'm going to go ahead and make banner little tails right here. Give it a little 3D action here. Poof it up a little bit, and when we hang it up, it's going to look a lot nicer. Here is how the bow turned out at the end, and I just wanted to show you a quick trick of the trade here. The reason these look so perfect and nice together side by side is because I put a little packing tape right here. You could see it glistening a little bit, because I just found that's the only way this kind of looked really nice together, because I think the bow looks absolutely fabulous here, but as the tails went down, it looked a little messy to me, so I decided to kind of like wave them together. So that is what I did. today's wreath, I'm starting with a 21-inch deco mesh, and this one is 10 yards long, and it's this kind of, I like to call this peacock color because it's green and blue and this kind of aqua color in between. It does have some foil, as you can see, shimmering in between. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a bubble method. We are also going to use a 14-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to use this little measuring mat that's also from the Dollar Tree, and some pipe cleaners. These really don't matter what they are because they are going to be quite hidden. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these. These were from Christmas and they're green and they'll blend in really easily here. And I'm just going to cut the pipe cleaners in half. When I do a bubble wreath or that poof method where you're going in a spiral, I like to start and end with a zip tie to make sure that my wreath is secure. I'm going to start by going in 1.5 to 2 inches and gather. The background that I'm using right now is silicone, so on silicone this doesn't really move too much, so I have to put it on something. After I gather, I always look through my little tail to make sure I pull out anything that is kind of a little bit too far going towards the inside. And then I'm going to start by pushing my deco mesh in, and I'm going to connect it on this little intersection. I'm going to show you in just a second here. I'm going to take this in the back to make sure that this part is in the back so it's not in our way. A few things before we begin. As you can see, when I started my deco mesh here, it is unrolling this way in a little wave. That's because when I'm making my poofs or my bubbles, it's just going to bubble up naturally, just like the mesh is supposed to be. As far as how big you want your bubbles, they can be anywhere from 6 to 10 inches. I usually go for 8 inches. And this time I'm going to be using row 2. You can definitely use row 3 if you want a little bit of a bigger wreath. I want to use row 2 because I want a lot of this bubble to kind of fill up the center a little more. So I'm bringing in my pipe cleaner, 2 twists, bring it back. In the back, I'm going to do 2 more twists. Then I'm going to fold in half and fold back. I'm going to be making 7 bubbles per section. I'm going to open it just so you see what it looks like, because usually I open it when I'm all done with all the bubbles, and not everyone actually opens their bubbles up, but I like a softer look. So I'm going to open my bubbles up all the way. As you can see how soft this side is comparing to the, you know, that boldness of the bubbles. If you are a beginner, and I know I have a lot of beginners watching this channel, this is such an easy wreath for you to do. And if you're a Dollar Tree shopper and only buy a Dollar Tree, all you have to do is just layer these. I'll give you an example. I'll add a video in the description box that has a Dollar Tree version of the bubble method that I do. And it is very simple. As you saw, all I do is make little bubbles and then you open them up. I'm going to go ahead and continue doing the same thing over in the rest of the 5 sections. And as you can see, whether you're a beginner or you're not a beginner, this is a great method, easy and absolutely beautiful. I already did my last loop right here, and I want to show you how I'm going to kind of complete the loop. Cut off a tail that's about 2 inches long. And I'm going to send it to the back. Now we have the beginning and the end. I'm going to just overlap them, grab a zip tie. I'm just going to crisscross them just like that. Grab my zip tie and just tie it off. And of course, on the last loop, there is a pipe cleaner. And then this is just what was left over. I'm just basically making things kind of cleaner and putting them away. And I'm just going to kind of tuck the tails just like that, so it's nice and neat. Cut it. And I'm going to send this back a little bit so it's just hidden and it doesn't scratch anything. And now we are ready with our wreath form. The decor for this wreath cannot get any easier. So first things first, we have a sign. So I'm going to take care of the sign first. I'm going to hot glue the pipe cleaners to the side because it's about an inch thick. I'm going to take the sticker off. Then I'm going to grab my pipe cleaner, fold it in half, and then I'm going to make a little space right here so more hot glue can get in there. Going to put a good chunk of hot glue right there. Put the pipe cleaner right on top. More hot glue. And then I'm going to grab a piece of felt. You can grab ribbon, fabric, whatever you want. And you're going to put that over. This is going to give you a permanent seal. I promise you this holds real well. I like to use felt. And look at this, it's not even cooled. I can't even pull it because it's so secured. I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue all the little corners right here so it's just a nice clean seal. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side of the sign. I'm done with the sign. Now I'm going to grab this fish netting. The netting comes in a tube, so I'm just going to keep it like this and measure off how much I'm going to need and a little bit more. So as you see, I'm going about 2 inches off of here just because I want to fold it back, and I'm going to cut it. This end right here, I'm going to put a pipe cleaner over it, give it a few twists, and then I'm going to attach it to the wreath form. Now we're going to take our netting and cascade it down. Open it up how you like it, and we're just going to cascade it down, just like that. And here you can take it in sections, just like you see it right here. I'm going to take it in a small section, grab a pipe cleaner. I'm going to put it right around it, and I'm just tying it to the wreath form itself. And I'm going to finish off all that tying off a little later. Now we're going to see where we're going to put the sign. And this is what I wanted. I wanted the netting to kind of cascade down from the sign itself. So I'm going to put the sign a little higher. I'm going to attach the first one right there. The second one somewhere around there. And this is the part where you could put anything you want. Grabbing some stuff I picked up at the Dollar Tree. First, I got these absolutely gorgeous little stars. And then whatever shells you have. Some of these are actually from the beach. You can definitely do something like this. And then these I think I did pick up at the Dollar Tree. And just kind of put them anywhere you want, cascade them down, and you are going to have a beautiful wreath. Super simple, super easy, and most of all, absolutely gorgeous. And the shells, I'm going to hot glue right on top of my Deco mesh here. After I have everything set, I decided to cover up this little star right here. So I'm grabbing more hot glue and another shell, and I'm trying to cover this area up. And I tried to pick a shell that had some, you know, some coral stuck to it too. It's just going to look so pretty. The endings at the bottom, you can either tie them to the back or you can just hot glue them in place. Some of these short ones, I think I'm just going to hot glue to the back of the wreath. This shell wreath is going to be super quick and absolutely stunning. We are going to use some of these. I bought these during fall at the Dollar Tree. Here is the ribbon that I'm going to use, and as you can see, none of it has any coral printed on it. But because this wreath form itself already tells you this is a coastal wreath, this is a shell wreath, we can get away with using very simple, very clean ribbon to make a beautiful wreath. For the fabric, I wanted something blue. Denim would look really, really good with it, but I did have a piece of fabric that was also blue, and I thought it would work really well. The last thing we're going to need is some cardboard so we can trace the shell and cut it out. The nice thing about this shell wreath is that it's flat, and you can give it a nice base with the cardboard, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's going to be nice and sturdy. So let me just trace it. And using an X-Acto knife, I'm going to cut it out. Leo's very confused why I'm not letting him. This cat does not give up. Next, I'm making sure that the outline of my wreath form is really, really spot on. And then it's time to start hot gluing my fabric. And I'm really going to make sure that it's nice and taut. And just start hot gluing the fabric to the actual cardboard. I'm going to do the opposite side. Here I'm going to do the center little V, and then at the bottom. And then you want to do all the dips. Now I'm just going to cut off all the excess and hot glue the edges in place. Now that our cardboard is covered, it's time to bring in the actual wreath form. And I know looking at it, you're like, how are you going to hot glue this? Well, the way I'm going to hot glue this is I'm going to be using my decor, and wherever I can, I'm going to hot glue behind my decor, behind my big bow and behind this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hot glue it exactly where I know that I'm going to have stuff, and this area right here is going to get covered no matter what. So what I'm going to do is making sure that my wreath form is in place, and then I'm going to hot glue the actual wreath form in place, and then I'm going to hot glue again later. This is just so it stays in place. I'm trying to place this where it's not going to affect the integrity of the actual wreath form. I want to make sure that you can still see that it's a shell wreath. I want this part to be shown for sure. And I think I like that. But what I'm really not liking is this ugly greenery. First things first, let's take these off the stems. The ones with the leaves, we are going to get rid of the leaves. The ones with this grass stuff, I'm going to leave. To bring it all together, I'm using a zip tie, cut off the excess. To make the bow, I am going to be using a bow maker, starting with the white ribbon, which is 2.5 inches. It's also the whitest ribbon I'm going to be using. So I'm going to have it in the back, and I'm going to make 5-inch loop. And since this is a double-sided ribbon, it doesn't matter. I'm just making my loops, measuring off 6 inches on this side. Going to cut it off and send it to the back. Next, I'm grabbing the blue ribbon. It's double-sided also, so I'm just going to bring it in the middle. And when I layer mine, as I'm going up, I like to make them smaller just a little bit. So if this is 5 inches, I'm going to make this one 4 3/4, just because when it comes up and you're actually done with your bow, it's going to matter. Another 6 inches, cut that off. I have a roll of leftover mesh ribbon. I'm just going to throw in a little bit like this. I'm not even making a bow. And now I'm going to do the yellow, measuring my tail. And then with this ribbon, since I did 4 3/4, I'm going to do 4.5-inch loops. And with this ribbon, it's not one-sided. It has to be twisted. And another 4.5 inches. All I did in this bow is I made 2 loop bows and stacked them. That's it. And then threw a little bit of mesh ribbon for kicks and giggles here and there. Now I'm just going to squeeze everything in the middle. Grab a zip tie. Before locking the zip tie in really tightly, I'm going to go and make sure that my loops are all the same size. Now I'm going to start opening up my bow, and I have a loop right here, a tail right here, a loop right here and a tail right here. This is how I'm going to even out my bow. Next, I'm going to cut all the tails. They are going to be just cut on a little angle. No dovetails today. I didn't feel like dovetails for some reason. So they're all going to get cut on slant. Now I'm just going to decide how I want my bow to be. And we are ready to hot glue it in place. Big dollop of hot glue. Oh, how stunning. I absolutely love how this wreath came out. On the back, you can definitely cover it if you're gifting it or selling it, or you can just put 2 little dots on there and put a little jute cord and hang it that way. And that is it for this gorgeous, gorgeous shell wreath. For this shell wreath, I'm going to be using 3/16 of an inch of ribbon. This one is off-ray, but whatever you have on hand that's kind of on the smaller end would work. Then I have some white florals, a sheet of burlap, and then some sort of a centerpiece to put in the middle of the flowers. You can use maybe one of these sand dollars from the Dollar Tree or a little star. And I also had a shell on hand that would look really, really pretty with it, and it's going to cover that hole. And you're also going to need a big piece of cardboard, enough to cut out the shell. Since my centerpiece is going to need time to dry, I'm going to start with that in a little dish. I just put a little bit of water, not for Leo. Oh, this cat, I'm telling you. And then I'm going to grab some brown paint and dip it in the water. That's going to be our stain. If you have stain, that's fine. Otherwise, just use whatever brown paint you have on hand. Now it's time to cut the shell out, and I'm just going to line it up against the edge and then outline. Using an X-Acto knife, I'm just going to cut this out. Now let's bring the base together. I have my burlap and it's doubled. As you can see, it's 2 pieces together. If you are using a piece of cardboard that's really thick and heavy, you really can save your wreath form for another project. But I am going to use it because I do want to make sure that it's nice and stable. And all I'm going to do is just hot glue here and there just to attach it to our actual cardboard. And another reason I'm using a cardboard is when I put my burlap on, I don't need anything in the back of it. It's the same color. Now I'm just holding it down where I have my hot glue so it settles in place. My shell is nice and stable. I'm bringing the burlap in. I know you see a big old wrinkle right here, but when I stretch it, it's going to go away. Nice thick layers of hot glue. Now that the bottom is attached, I'm cutting the top part. I'm going to give it a nice stretch and attach it here in the center. I made like a little V right here. Now I'm going to do the sides and then you can do the corners. The reason I'm doing this is to make sure that everything is nice and even. It's not crooked or anything like that. That we have enough burlap for everything. I'm giving it a stretch to make sure it stretches my wrinkle out. Now I'm just hot gluing everything else and we're going to be all done with the base. The back is nicely hot glued in place. And here's what it looks like from the front. Isn't it beautiful? And you actually can see the outline of the wreath form because I have it nice and tight. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the ribbon and I'm going to go along the edges right here. So I'm going to start with this one. A little bit of hot glue and hot glue the ribbon in place. Now I'm going to go down and then go up and I'm going to finish this off before I actually hot glue anything, just to make sure that everything is nice and straight. Since we know this is the middle and it's going right here, this ribbon really should be over just a little bit. Pull on that and then have that in the middle. Now that I have it, I want to make sure that it's nice and pretty, and because I have it taut, I'm going to hot glue it in place. Even though I know these are nice and secure, I'm still going to go ahead and put some hot glue right over. If you're selling or gifting this piece, definitely cover the back with some felt, fabric, or even more burlap. If not, find your center, add a hot glue here, add a hot glue here, and then just a piece of jute cord, a little bit more hot glue on top. Now we can bring in the florals. I have 2 of these picks with the little flowers, and then I have some spring flowers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little bouquet like this with these elegant flowers being on top. I really like this greenery, and this greenery I do not like, so just remove it. Next, I'm going to bring in our centerpiece to see how wide we need the flowers to be. I think that looks beautiful. Going to grab a zip tie. You can use a floral wire, whatever you have on hand. Before I tighten my zip tie, I'm going to make sure it's where I want them to be one more time. Cut that off. Now we're going to hot glue the shell in place. And the way I do that is, of course, you want to hit any flat area. And then I'm going to go on the edge, and I'm going to go really heavy with my hot glue. And the reason for that is I want the hot glue to just drip into place. The shell is a little dome, so gravity is going to do its thing, and the hot glue will just melt down and secure it in place. Hot glue the greenery in place. This is a press and hold situation. Now it's time to hot glue our sign on, and we're going to press. While I'm doing that, I got a little home sign. I got this wooden sign from Michael's a long time ago. I used Rust-Oleum chalk paint in linen white that I got at Home Depot, but you can use any paint you have on hand. I'm going to put it right here. I just felt like it needed something, but you can put any sign you want. I just thought the white sign would look really, really pretty, and something like this can definitely go in any room in your house or on the front door. This is on pretty securely, and now I'm just going to add the home sign, and I'm going to give it lots of hot glue because I want to make sure that it stays in place. Find my center about there and press and hold. And that's it. The shell wreath is all done. Here are the few supplies we're going to need for this shell wreath form, and the most important one is some raffia. You can get this online at craft stores. They're not that expensive, and they are very forgiving when you're hot gluing because they are thin. And because we have so much going on here and I want to outline this whole shell, I figured that this would be the best option. You can also use ribbon, but I'm going to use the raffia. I'm sure you're wondering why I'm using the pink one. That is because this ribbon does have a little bit of pink in there, and it's just going to give it a little pop. This ribbon is 2.5 inches. I got this at Craft Outlet. Then I'm going to be using some of this ribbon because it's a beautiful, beautiful combo. And then I'm going to use some mesh ribbon, and I think you're going to like the way I put this bow together. A great trick to use raffia is to just grab a nice piece, cut it off, and then do a piece at a time. Otherwise, you're just going to deal with twisting and twisting and twisting. The way I'm going to attach the raffia is work from inside out. First, I'm going to do these horizontal waves. Then I'm going to do these lines right here. And then I'm going to finish off by doing the outside. And I recommend doing the same thing because all the edges that you're going to have from the lines or from these waves, you're going to cover when you're going all the way around. To get started, I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue, and I'm going to take care of this corner. And now I'm just going to start going around and around. From time to time, give it a little bit of hot glue, very thin, and my hot glue is on low, so I keep on going. The pink is going to look so cute. I'm done with my waves that are going horizontal, and now I'm going to just start doing all of the lines. As you can see, the inside of the shell is done, and all I have left is just to go all the way around. To make the bow for the wreath, I am going to use a pipe cleaner, and I'm going to freehand the actual bow. Going to make a 4-loop bow. Measuring my tail, I'm probably going to cut this a little shorter. I'm simply making 4 loops, and then I'm going to see how I like it. And you really don't need a bow maker because you're looking at these loops right here. You know, you're pretty much where you should be. Same thing on this side. Just flatten them out so you kind of can see where you're at. And then to find your center, you simply just fold them together and we know where our center is. I'm going to grab a clip, kind of hold it in place, and now I'm going to cut the tail. With this aqua ribbon, I'm going to use the mesh ribbon and I'm going to put it over it. Since I'm doing a simple loop bow with it, I'm going to find my center first so that I know exactly where we're at. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make loop number 1, just like that. And then loop number 2. This is a perfect size. Let's clamp it all together. And now we're ready to squeeze in the middle, but not too tight. Twist in the back. Oh, what perfection. And I'm going to twist, and I'm going to twist it around our actual wreath form. Before I finish up with the bow, I want to take care of the loop to hang this wreath form. So what I'm going to do is we attached our bow right in the center. I'm going to go on both sides, and I'm going to go underneath our wave. I'm tying a few knots on this side, and then I'm going to go to the other side, and I want to make sure that it doesn't go too high because I don't want this to show too much. That's why I'm using a pink that's close to my shell color. With the hot glue gun, I'm going to just hot glue this in place. The loops of this bow are going to keep this part hidden. Here you can decide if you want to do little dovetails. In my case, I'm just going to do it on a little slant. Now I'm going to poof these out just a little bit. In the center, I'm going to use this coral little skeleton. So let's get the hot glue going. And right in the center. When you see it in person, it just brings it together, and it's a very, very elegant and beautiful wreath. The supplies you're going to need: a Dollar Tree Christmas tree, and the one I'll be using is in white. Then I'm going to be using a Farmhouse Glam because it does have the silver poinsettia flower little clip. This one I got at Walmart. I'm going to be using 2 coastal picks from the Dollar Tree and 2 picks I got at Joann's. Merry Christmas sign. I'm also going to be using this wooden board. It measures 8.5 inches by 5. And for the wreath form that we're using is this beautiful seashell one from the Dollar Tree. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the things I want painted. For the Merry Christmas sign, I'm using a Rust-Oleum chalk paint in linen white. I'm going to give it a coat or 2 until I feel like it's a nice crisp white. For my wooden board, I'm going to paint it black, and I know that sounds odd because we're doing Christmas, but we are doing a bit of a farmhouse glam, so this is going to work fine. It only took 1 coat, and now I'm just doing the sides. These 2 are dry. I'm grabbing a Sharpie paint marker, and I'm going to do stitching kind of like what you have on the Christmas sign all around. I'm going to do that around this sign. The nice thing about this is you don't have to have perfect little stitches. You can have some shorter, some longer, maybe some even crooked. Now that our stitching is done, I'm grabbing my Merry Christmas sign and I'm going to give it a nice dollop of hot glue wherever I can. And I'm going to hot glue it right there. Our sign is all set. Now let's get started on the wreath. The next thing we're going to do is cover our shell with the Christmas tree. What I'm doing with the Christmas tree is I'm pulling out the actual branches. Just give it a little bit of muscle. And if you can't pull them out, just use some wire cutters and cut them out. Next, I'm going to take my branches and start laying them out. If you have something like this where you know it's going to show, just use some wire cutters, get rid of that, and then overlay this on top, and it's going to fit in really nicely. I decided to put short ones on top and long ones at the bottom because I know my sign is going to go right there. For this, I decided to use white hot glue instead of the clear because that way it's going to cover some of this yellow, and I'm just going to hot glue like this straight onto the wreath form, and then I'm going to add my little white Christmas tree. When hot gluing these in place, make sure all your branches are facing the same way. So right here, as you see, all of mine are facing up, so I'm going to do that going down. Also, when you're doing the horizontal lines, make sure all your branches are going the same way. And of course, don't forget to bend the ones that are going on these little waves. Now that we have the inside fill in, I'm going to start doing the outside, and here I am not going to mess with any of these. Pick just the best part of the branches because that's the whole beauty, and you want these to look seamless. Look at that, we are starting to get our shell. Next, I'm bringing the picks in, cut them down quite a bit. My silver pick, I'm going to put on top of this one using a little zip tie. Going to bring everything together before finalizing my zip tie. Make sure that's where I want it. After my zip tie is nice and tight, what I want to do is I want to bring some of this greenery to the front, and I'm going to open this up as much as I can. I'm going to remove this part and attach the sign. As you can see, it's super easy to center the sign from the back, but before I hot glue this in place, I'm grabbing some jute cord, going to go underneath this top wave on the inside, right here and right here. Tie this in. I'm making sure that my hanging loop is not going to go above right there. And I'm just going to start hot gluing it straight to the wood right here. The sign is all hot glued in place, and yes, I think I went overboard just a little bit. And look how pretty it's starting to look. Now let's add the greenery. To attach the actual greenery to the wreath form, you can use zip tie, floral wire, pipe cleaners, but I do like my zip ties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crisscross them. One zip tie is going to go from top to bottom this one, the other one is going to go from here to here. For the final touch, I have my poinsettia, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip it in place right here. You could hot glue it in place, whatever you want to do, but look how adorable this came out, and it's very farmhouse for my farmhouse friends. This is going to be a little bit of a glam wreath because of the ribbon that we're going to use. I have this beautiful ribbon that has little pink ornaments with gold and this light green. This ribbon is 2.5 inches. It's wired, and this one was purchased at Marshall's. This one was purchased at Michael's. It's 1.5 inches and also wired. The rest of these supplies are from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to be using some of this ivory burlap, then some white felt, some of these beautiful coastal picks. One of them have a little seahorse on them, this little berry bushel, and of course we're going to be using a mermaid tail. When covering a wreath like this, using burlap right away is not the best idea because you don't want to hot glue burlap onto burlap. It's going to show through. I'm just going to measure off how much I need. Going to do the same thing with the tail. I'm going to do the tail first. The reason I chose felt instead of fabric is because felt is very malleable and you can shape it and stretch it however you want. Any excess I'm going to cut off. Tail is done. Let's do the top, and now I'm hot gluing the top part in place. Going to cut off all the excess. Let's get the burlap. The most important part that needs to be covered really nicely is the top and the bottom. I'm going to start with the top, and I'm going to go where the fold is right here so that the main part at the top doesn't have any wrinkles. Hot glue it in at the top. Now let's hot glue the sides in place. Just continue working those sides in and keep on going back and forth from side to side to make sure that it's going in nice and even. Next, I'm cutting off all the excess burlap about an inch from the edge. Now I can do the corners. Next, I'm grabbing my leftover burlap. Grab a piece that would work the best. Now that our mermaid tail is all covered, I'm going to bring in the greenery. Because these two pigs are the same, I decided to mirror them. These greenery pieces on the sides, then this right here, we're going to open it up, and the tallest part in the center. The Seahorse does have this greenery that really flops, so we might hot glue some of that in place. Next, I'm going to grab the floral with the pink, and I'm going to cut all of this off. Since I'm only using the berries, I'm getting rid of all the pine and the leaves. After I like the way everything is arranged, grabbing my zip tie and zip tying everything together. Cut off the excess. For this part, I'm going to grab heavier wire. This is a 20 gauge wire from the back. Because of the felt, it's easy to go in and out, back to the front, and I'm going above the zip tie, giving it a twist in the back. This wire is 18 inches long, so I'm going to take the shorter end and I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to go a little lower just to have this tail in place. I'm going to go a little higher and I want to attach to the little wave, so I'm just going to go right in the middle. This is going to grab some of these and then just twisting them in place. At this point, whatever you want hot glued, definitely do that. This is what we have so far. Now it's time to start working on our bow. I'm going to first measure how long I want my tail to be, and I don't want it to be longer than the actual mermaid tail. And then let's figure out how big we want our loops to be. There's my loop. I'm going to measure it real quick before I get started, and that's 4 inches. And because this is one-sided ribbon, I'm going to put my tail face side up. I'm going to take it to the bottom so we can see the measurements, and I'm going to make a twist. That way when I make my loop, it's right side up. We decided on 4 inches, so I'm going to make another twist. Make sure it's at 4 inches and go to 4 inches on this side. I don't want this bow to be too big, so what I'm going to do is a 3-loop bow, measuring another 4 inches. Next, I'm grabbing my 1.5 inch ribbon, and I'm going to start with this side. This is a one-sided ribbon also, so right away we're going to do a little twist. And then same thing, I'm going to do 4 inches, then twist. And you don't really have to measure at this point because you already see where your measurements are, but you do have to twist every time you come through the center. That way everything is right side up. And I'm also doing 3 loops with this ribbon. For that coastal feel, I'm grabbing some mesh ribbon, which is my favorite. Some of you know. I'm going to do 3 loops just like the other ones. To put the bow together, I decided to use some white floral wire. When you feel your bow is nice and secure with the floral wire, go ahead and put it around the tail. And I wrapped it around a few times and then twisting it in place. Before we open up the bow, I'm going to put in a hanging loop, the second wave from the top, right in the center. Cut off a generous piece, make a few knots, and you have a nice loop that is centered. Let's go over here and make this all pretty for Christmas. Next, I'm going to do dovetails. Apparently, Leo wanted to say hi. And because this is a mermaid tail wreath, I feel like dovetails are very appropriate. Next, I'm going to balance things out. And there you go. We have a unique pink and a light green coastal Christmas wreath. For this wreath, I'm starting with a foam wreath form from the Dollar Tree. Then I'm going to be using this beautiful light blue glitter ribbon. Next, I got all of these picks on the after Christmas clearance. These curls I got at Michael's. This one I got at Joann's. Next, I'm going to be using some of these glitter white leaves. And then you're going to need some sort of ribbon. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this wreath form in this light blue ribbon. A little bit of hot glue. When you're wrapping this around, make sure you choose the side where you're going to hot glue the ribbon in place and just hot glue on one side. And sometimes this happens. I think I overlaid it a little bit too much, but that's okay. I'm going to grab a similar color, finish it off, and this is where my decor and my bow is going to go. It's going to get hidden, but I still don't want it to be green on the back and where it can be seen. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish off with this other ribbon, and then we're going to be ready to decorate. As you see, the leaves blend in with our wreath form really nicely. That is why we are going to use these. First things first, let's bend them so they bend with our wreath form. Then we're going to bend this. And now for the pop of silver, we're going to put some on one side and then some of these cuties on the other side and just kind of work it in place. So it looks like little corals peeking through here and there. And then the white will bring everything into focus. Now that I have everything in place, I'm going to zip tie it. Then I'm going to grab a big zip tie and I'm zip tying the whole piece into place. The next thing I want to take care of is actually the hanging loop. I'm grabbing some of this silver tinsel cord, making a few knots. And of course, the knot is going to go on the inside. You can hot glue it in place, whatever you want to do. Now we're going to put a bow right here. Before I get started, I want to measure how long I want my actual ribbon strips to be. Let's see what this is. 8 inches. Let's do maybe 3 of these. We can always add more. Now I'm just going to fold them in half. And we have our little dovetails. Then our silver ribbon, same thing. We're going to do it at 8 inches. I also decided to use some white ribbon. This one I get at Costco during Christmas. Same thing, we're going to do 3. We're going to start with the white, then bring in the blue and the silver because I'm going to put a silver dollar on top and I want that to be against something darker. So all I'm going to do is just layer them. White, blue, silver, white, blue, silver, and white, blue, silver. Then I'm going to fold the bow in half so I can just pinch on one side and find your center, bringing it together, floral wire, tie it tightly in the back, and then you can attach it to your wreath. After the bow is attached, I'm just opening it up. That is how easy this is. Now my bow is how I want it to be in the back. All of this is hidden by the bow itself. Now let's get all that hot glue on. I'm going to let the glue cool and we are done with this ultimate glam Christmas coastal wreath. Here are the basics for this wreath. I'm starting with the sign and it's 9 inches by 13 and a half, almost 14 inches. Then I have 3 rolls of Deco mesh, some pipe cleaners, and of course our wreath form. The wreath form I'm going to be using is this square wreath form from the Dollar Tree. It is 14 inches in length and width and it has 3 rows of wires. The pipe cleaners, I'm going to be cutting into 4-inch strips. And then I'm going to bend the strips in a little V. This is just going to help us grab them as we're working. Our Dollar Tree Deco mesh is 6 inches in width and 5 yards in length. And I'm going to be cutting it into 22-inch strips. After you cut each strip, let it roll naturally and put it to the side. The ribbon is all cut up. Let's make our cruffle. I'm just going to prepare my piece of pipe cleaner and then I am going to grab a little clamp. This one I get in a pack of 6 from the Dollar Tree, but you can use a clothespin, anything you have on hand. With the Dollar Tree Deco mesh, I'm going to start by rolling the end and making 3 loops, just like this. Then I'm going to clamp it turn it upside down, and then I'm going to roll it 3 times on the other side. Put my thumbs right here, and I'm just going to kind of accordion style bring it together. You have 2 ways of putting this curl. Either the way the curls are curling up, have this be up or this be up. In this instance, I want this to be up because I want it to be kind of just more on the curlier end, and it kind of opens up like a little flower right here. Then I'm going to put my pipe cleaner on. Because we accordioned it out, it's going to gather quite kind of thick, maybe about 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this part up and then twist it twice. And when you do that, all the sides kind of pop up, and it's going to give you more volume on your little curl. Let's do it one more time. I'm going to do 3 rolls, 1, 2, and 3. And by the way, this method was started by this Southern girl, Can. I'm going to link her channel in the description box below, but everyone has been using this method because it's so smart. You get the curl and you get the little ruffle, and you can get away using Dollar Tree Deco mesh to make gorgeous, gorgeous wreaths. Then my pipe cleaner, and then right here I'm just going to bring it up, 2 twists. If you have anything sticking out, like this one's a little loose, I'm just going to remove it. Anything like this, I'm going to tuck it in, and there you go, you have your little cruffle. Each roll of Deco mesh from the Dollar Tree can make 8 of these little cruffles in one roll if you're going to cut them into 22-inch strips. And now I'm just going to continue making all the cruffles. And when I come back, we are going to put these cruffles on our wreath form. Before we start putting our cruffles onto our wreath form, I wanted to show you why we're gonna do and decorate the way we're going to decorate. And it's because our sign is 13.5 inches, our wreath form is 14 inches. For some odd reason, the jute cord is at the bottom of the sign instead of being on top. Because of this jute cord being at the bottom, I'm going to kind of push my sign towards the top and decorate the bottom. Of course, if you have a sign where the jute cord is where it's supposed to be, you can definitely just move this down and decorate on top. Let's start with our corners. I'm going to be attaching our cruffles to the center bar. And here in the back, I'm just going to do a few twists, and then I'm going to fold it in half and fold it back. And that's it. All right, and this last one, I'm just going to put right in this one, and I'm just going to leave it there. So in these middle ones, I just have 1 on each side. Then these corner ones, I have 8, and here I have 6. So 3 rolls is just fine for this. Next, I'm taking this floral garden mesh ribbon, and I'm going to cut it into 7-inch little strips. What I'm going to do with this one is just find my halfway mark, grab a pipe cleaner, give it 2 twists, and I want these kind of throughout this area. I'm going to start kind of in the center. This does not have to be perfect or anything. And I'm going to end up spreading it out. I want little shades of white here and there. Look how elegant the wreath is with a little bit of white here and there. And the reason I had to add the white was because our sign had a lot of white, and I kind of wanted to balance things out and bring a little bit of the white from the sign into the wreath. And now we're going to do the decor for the bottom of the sign. For the greenery, I'm starting with this one, and it's the color of the rope right here. It has like this olive color a little bit, then a little bit of this green foliage, And I'm kind of trying to mimic a lot of the greenery here, and I thought the foliage would work well with that. And then some spring flowers. We want to bring a little bit of white back into our florals. We have 6 stems on the greenery, so we're just going to do 3 per side, and I'm just going to try cutting them as close to the end of the stem as possible. Next thing I'm doing is moving the greenery up. Okay, we have the 2 long ones, and I'm trying to cover both sides here, and then 2 white per each side. When I have my flower, I'm going to try to bring it in as much as I can, and then we're going to zip tie it together. I first zip tie it kind of loosely, and then I'll try to see if I can bring things in a little bit more. And now I'm just cleaning up in the end. Anything that's sticking out way too far, just going to clip it. In order to attach my florals, I'm going to make a little hole right here in the center, and I'm going to be using my instrument right here. I'm going to have it tagged in the description box below, but on here, on the sides right there, it has 2 sizes of hole punchers. First one is a little smaller, and then this one's a little bigger. I'm going to use the bigger one, and it goes through the Dollar Tree signs like butter. I'm going to, let's see, find my center about there, and just like that. Real quick and easy. Let me cut off this tail right here. I have my zip tie through it, and I'm just going to attach it just like that. No hot glue, no mess. I know it's in place. It's not going anywhere. It's nice and secure. To cover the center, I'm going to make a little bow using the mesh ribbon. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take about 1 inch and have this as left over right here. And then I'm going to make a little circle. When you lay it flat, measure to make sure it's about 5 inches. Let me make mine a little bigger, but keep your center in mind. That's about 5 inches. As I'm holding the front right here with my excess little inch, I'm going to make another loop. So basically 2 loops of ribbon. And then this tail right here, I'm going to roll it in. And I'm going to bring this back. And then we're going to have a little bow. I'm going to do that again. I have 2 loops right there. I have my inch that's overlapping. This excess right here is what's going to cover the zip tie that's going to be holding the tie. So I'm going to roll it in just like that to my center where I always had my center. Then I'm going to grab my zip tie and I'm going to put it through here. I'm going to bring in the rest of the bow, keeping it in the center, and then it's going to get squeezed together. And then I'm just going to put this right through the little hole, and we're going to zip tie it towards the back. And there you go. We have our greenery. We have the little bow right here. We are ready to attach onto our wreath form. We'll worry about the greenery later. Let's flip this upside down. What I have here is some ribbon. I'm going to put this underneath to hold it up while we hot glue it in place. To attach the sign, I already started putting in my little felt pieces, and what I'm going to do is just like you're seeing it right here, I'm attaching the felt pieces to my actual sign, putting some hot glue down, and it's going to hold it really, really well. Just like that. And as soon as that cools, you are all done. This turned out to be a unique wreath, but I think it's really, really cute. We got some greenery, we have some Deco mesh, and a beautiful sign. Today I will be using a very different medium for my wreath, and it's this diamond braided robe from the Dollar Tree, and I used 3 packs for this full wreath. 1 pack is enough for 2 sections of this 14-inch metal wreath from the Dollar Tree. Because of the way this rope is packaged, it's necessary to stretch it out. So I just grabbed it and just stretched it out from one end to another. Then I grabbed it and folded it in half, found my middle, and started braiding in one of the sections. As you can see, the first loop we made was underneath the last metal row. So then I'm grabbing my rope and then I'm going over and under, and it's hard to see because the rope is so long and I'm just threading and threading through, but basically you are going over and under, and then I went over and under backwards, and once again I'm going over and under backwards, and you're just going like that non-stop, back and forth, over and under, over and under. And in about 3-4 rows you already see a little design forming, and it's so pretty, and I absolutely am in love with this process, and I'm in love that I found this rope that is just such a beautiful bright color and works so much with this seaside theme that I'm going for. Now I'm making my last loop before I go into the next side, and I'm going to make this area as tight as possible, but that line might still show through. Under, over, under, and a look at the beautiful print, or I guess I don't even know what you would call this, but it's like weaving, I guess. And then once again, under, over, under, over, and then we continue going with that. After completing 2 sections, this is what is left over, and I decided to continue weaving because I want as much leftover of that tail as I can possibly get at the end. That way we can pull it over that section right there where it's showing that little metal bar, and we can pull it over that. But for right now, I'm going to continue with the leftover tail. When you're done with your rope, it's time to hot glue the endings. The most important thing here is not to pull your endings towards the inside of the wreath, but more or less towards the direction that you are braiding. Meaning, don't do a 90-degree angle, just pull it, and in the same direction that my rope is going, that's the direction that I'm hot gluing that last ending. Now onto rope number 2. As you can see, I hot glued it right on top of the leftover tail, and I continue braiding where the leftover tail left off its work. Here's the progress with 2 ropes completely braided onto my wreath. After I was all done, I had a tail left over, so I grabbed the tail and folded it into 6 sections. That way we can cover those metal bars all around where the black is peeking through, and there's a total of 6 of these section bars. Now all I'm doing is I'm grabbing my glue gun, putting my little ropes over them, and just hot gluing in the back. Now it's time to decorate. I grabbed this 3-piece sign at the Dollar Tree, and I decided to use that bottom one that says Seaside because the colors really worked with the rope. Here I'm just making sure that the sign is nice and centered, and then flipping it over and hot gluing it in place. To make the waves, you're going to need 2 different Deco mesh rolls from Dollar Tree. One is blue and one is white. And if you have some left over, that's perfect because you do not need much at all. I think you at the most will need about 30 inches of each Deco mesh in total. To start off with, I'm grabbing my blue Deco mesh, and on top of it, I'm layering my white. Then I'm bringing both together and tying them with a little zip tie. You can also use a pipe cleaner, you can use a little floral wire, whatever you have on hand is fine. I am just more partial to the zip ties. Now I hot glue my zip tie ending to one of the sides, and what I'm doing next is just adding 2 more zip ties to make a total of 3 waves. When I'm done with that, I'm adding a 4th zip tie to the end, and that one is going to act like the first zip tie for my waves that are going to go on the opposite side. After hot gluing both of my deco mesh ends, then I'm going to take my 2 middle zip ties and I'm going to hot glue them to the edge of the wreath. I'm repeating the exact same process on the opposite side. Okay, you guys, so these are actually shells that I brought from the sea, that I actually got from the beach. I don't usually take any when I snorkel, but if I find them on the beach, I feel like it's kind of fair. So I did bring these home from one of my adventures, and I am going to spray the front and the back with some white spray paint. To cover my Dollar Tree wreath, I'm using this amazingly gorgeous blue burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I thought it was so gorgeous, and with my white seashells, it would make such a gorgeous contrast. So I decided to use this, and I just wrapped it until it was all gone and hot glued it in place. To make the bow, I'm grabbing my absolute favorite ribbon from the Dollar Tree, which is the burlap ribbon with a little lace, and I'm bringing it together with a little piece of jute cord. Now I'm just cutting both of my little tails to size, and I'm also cutting little triangles on the edges so it's nice and cute. Now I'm grabbing both of my conch shells and I'm hot gluing them in place at the bottom of the wreath. To hang my wreath, I'm cutting off another piece of jute cord, tying it in a knot, hot gluing the knot right in the middle of the wreath. Then I'm just grabbing my bow and I'm going to hot glue the bow over the knot. That way everything is nice and smooth and you have this gorgeous wreath. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for being with us. If you enjoy wreath tutorials like this, sometimes hauls that are craft related or decor related, don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. And we will see you in our next video. Right, Simba? Say bye. Or give me 5. Bye, guys. Mwah.